All right. Well, welcome to Greenfluence. So firstly, we'd just like to ask you, what does Greenfluence mean to you? It's not a trick question. It's not actually a word that you'll find in the dictionary. So I would love you to just put maybe a sentence or a word in the chat and we'll see what you think this word symbolizes. Prashant, what does yet mean?
You said not in the dictionary, so I said yet.
It will be, it might be.
Well, to me, Greenfluence means being able to influence and have a positive impact in this world. Vis, what about you?
I think to me, yeah, very similar to you, Maya. It's how we can use our own individual identities and empower people and get people together and create an impact for a more sustainable world going forward. And that can be done through various things, which is what we're exploring at Greenfluence. So very exciting times ahead, I guess.
Great.
Cool.
And
Yeah, we
Paul,
got some couple of responses here. Yeah, it's a very good point, Paul, the influence each of us have, definitely, for sure. Cool. Let's move on. Maya, take it away.
Okay. So my name is Maya Valentin. I'm an applied finance and law student at Macquarie University, currently in my final semester and moving into a role in banking next year as a graduate. And I think what draws me here today is just the fact that we are in such a privileged and powerful position to be educated, to have these connections, and also to have an influence over our corporations, that we are given this really prized position and we have so much potential that we could create positive impacts in not only corporations, but for our wider society. So that's, I guess, my personal story of being here. Vis, what about you?
Yeah, so I also went to Macquarie University. So I did a Bachelor of Actuarial Studies in Applied Finance, graduated at the end of 2019. And what I realized when I was studying finance is there wasn't a lot of application on how finance can be used in terms of how it can be seen from a social lens, in terms of how we can create profit and create purpose. So I think that really inspired me to look more into this field. And last year, I got really interested in ESG, sustainable investing, all areas like that. And to me, like, I want a career where I can make purpose and also make a living. So I think that was a huge motivation for me in creating Greenfluence, and to understand and to pass that knowledge to the wider university community, to students and also professionals who aren't really sure much about this space. I think for me, a lot of people know what climate change is, but they see it from an environmental perspective, but they might not know how it links to business and finance. And I think that's such an important area for commerce students and for everyone to understand. So that's the main motivation for me behind this. And yeah, really looking forward to the podcast and some really exciting events. Yeah, that's me.
Okay. All right. So what we believe in at Greenfluence, kind of reiterating, as students, founders, and professionals, we are privileged to be in a position of influence in business and society. We see a lot of, actually, on this call right now, we have a lot of Macquarie University students and also our friends and kind of professional colleagues here too. And just having these conversations is really important to be able to understand these concepts of, you know, for example, like sustainability and how that applies to everyday life, to advising clients, and also to the vision of our future. And so our broader mission then is to be able to empower you to create these positive impacts through education on sustainability, responsible investing, and climate change. Vista, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, I think just to reiterate Maya's points, definitely believe that I think a lot of us just living in this society in Australia in a very lucky position. And I think, yeah, because we should use the privilege to make an impact and to see, how we can sort of transform, like just in terms of the environment and also in finance. And I think the really interesting thing here, as our good friend Tom mentioned in the podcast, in sustainability, you can have people from all different backgrounds. So I know like a lot of people on this call would have done law, finance, even engineering. And I think that's definitely like a huge benefit, just pulling like those resources together, getting those great minds together. And then, yeah, in terms of our mission, I think the whole thing is we want to create an impact, and we want to like have various ways where people can explore the themes. So we have the podcast, but we also want to create that community where people can talk, meet like-minded people, and think about ways where they can make an impact. So just to give one quick example, like if you own a stock, you can always participate in an AGM of the company and vote in various resolutions and things like that. And so we just want to explore that breadth of what's out there for the individual in this sort of world. So I think that's really exciting.
Amazing.
Anything else to add, Maya, or all good?
No, I think that leads really well into how we're going to carry out this mission. And that's through these 3 pillars. So the first one is fostering a community. And that's kind of why we have this event right now. It's informal, but you get to meet other people who are also interested in this space. And then you have empowering through education, actually building those constructive debates and also conversations with your peers, your colleagues, and also just educating the younger generations too about these rather sophisticated ideas too. And the last one is overall making an impact. And that can mean a lot of different things to different people. And that's totally fine because we all have our own causes that we care about. And we just want to be able to, provide you with those tools so you can make an impact.
Yeah, definitely. I think just to add to that point, so with the empowering through education, that's through our podcast, things like that, also open to, like what sort of qualifications can we use? Like, for example, I'm doing a CFA within the ESG space. So there's like a lot of different like tools out there and qualifications you can get if you want to immerse yourself more in the space. So yeah, I'm always happy to talk about, I guess, about various things like that. Fostering the community, I think we do plan to expand and to get more, to get more contributors, get more people writing blogs, articles, suggestions, things like that. And making an impact, which I think sort of ties both the community and education together. And that's like an end goal that Maya and I both align with. So very exciting.
Oh, well said.
Cool.
Whoa.
There we go. All right. So I guess this links back to our previous slide. So I guess at Greenfluence, we want to set big goals that really challenge ourselves. And there was this very famous saying. It goes something like, you can aim for the moon. If you fall, you reach for the stars. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's important to have like a big vision, because I think Maya and I, like, we are taking somewhat of a risk by doing this, but we think it's a very calculated risk, and we think that we can empower a lot of change. So I guess for us, we want to be the primary platform to learn about climate change, responsible investing, and sustainability for young people and professionals in the Australia and New Zealand region. Like already in the past 2 weeks, we've seen like a remarkable level of support by people even from the US, things like that. So we definitely see huge potential. And Maya, perhaps you want to talk about the second one?
Yeah. So I guess the second part of it is supporting the younger companies, and that involves supporting founders and also being involved in investing in this space, because we want to make sure that financial markets and also capital flows into this space to really incentivize growth of, good ideas. And that's been quite prevalent lately, especially in climate tech, you can see the growth of, even innovations with solar panels and generating renewable electricity. And so I think part of this fits into our vision because we want to be part of the larger ecosystem in Australia. And we also would like to encourage students and also, recent graduates to explore different roles in this startup space, and how they can have the opportunity to shape the future with new ideas.
Very well said.
Okay,
Cool. I think,
take it away.
yeah, okay. So I think what I wanted to do was to break down some of the key terms that we talk about, because I think for me, when I've been explaining to people, I use these terms a lot. So firstly, climate change. I think this is like a big picture topic. It's all over the news. It's everywhere. So essentially, that's alterations in various weather patterns. And I think the key thing to note here, it's human induced. So it's caused by activities that humans do. So for example, in terms of deforestation, in terms of putting mass amounts of waste in landfill, are just some of the examples. And what that does is that increases the number of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. So get like in terms of CO2, in terms of methane, all that kind of thing. And if the level of greenhouse gases goes over a certain amount, it actually warms up the planet and makes it very hard to sustain human life as well as marine ecosystems and the habitats of other animals. So, and how is that done? So I think like we've seen this so many times, right? The burning of fossil fuels such as coal, oil, natural gas, and methane. So I think there's a huge opportunity in the transition to more renewable sources such as solar, wind, nuclear, things like that. And that's something that will be explored later in one of the breakout rooms. And really the effects of that are there's an increased frequency in rare natural disasters. So think about your once in 100-year floods that might happen once every 50 years. And the problem is society needs to adapt to that. And that obviously has a huge economic impact on costs. It has a huge economic impact on insurance and claims that people pay out. And more importantly, a huge impact on loss of human lives, which is not good for the economic growth of a society. And that leads to more inequality. So, for example, we've seen this phenomenon of climate refugees where a lot of people, they actually can't live in their area because it's so prone to natural disasters. So in an area such as, I say Bangladesh, that has quite a low altitude, the risk of tsunamis and floods might be high. So it's important that we look and to see how we can help these very vulnerable communities. So the second term is sustainability. So these are methods to ensure the longevity of natural resources. And I think there's like huge potential in the space. An area that's looked to a lot is the circular economy. So how can we reuse various materials instead of throwing them out to landfill? And there's a huge opportunity for firms and individuals to see how they can reduce waste. So for example, some examples I'd put are reduced household wastage and ride sharing. And I think this is really, there's huge economic benefits and also huge benefits for the planet. And I think if we rely less on fossil fuels and make that transition, it creates more, I guess we can preserve the environment a bit better. Next slide, please, Maya. Cool. So the last slide goes to, sorry, the last topic or core focus area is responsible investing. And this is an area that, like really excites me. So for those of you who studied finance, you have your traditional way of looking at things. You have your risk, your return, and that's just the way to measure financial performance in the short term, in the medium term, etc. Responsible investing takes it a step further. So in addition to risk and return, you might have a third dimension where you look at impact or you look at various things that affect people. So a lot of you guys might have heard of ESG, so environmental, social, and governance. I know we've got a few people on the call, such as Tom, who are very passionate about this. Yeah, so these factors need to be considered in terms of the social implications of a company's activities while they make return. And this ties into the idea of how can we make a profit, and also how can we deliver purpose, and how that's done. Portfolio screening, looking at a portfolio and seeing what activities are harmful and increase risk to a company. ESG integration, impact investing, which we will cover a lot in Greenfluence. And the effect is that it meets the investors' demands, investors are happy, and there's more financial flow. The key thing as well, it creates accountability for companies. It ensures that they can meet their environmental targets, and ensures that they're doing the right thing for society. And I think the more important thing is something I'm also very passionate about. They create a lot more purpose for society. And I think businesses have to work with governments to do that. Next slide, please, Maya. Okay, so we've got two different pictures here. I'll start with the one on the left. I'm sure we've all seen Finding Nemo, and I thought this was a pretty funny meme. So it's funny, but it's also very nice and reflective. So you've got Nemo and Dory. So reducing emissions is like the target. And I guess we don't know how to reduce emissions, but it's good we have Dory who helps us, who finds a solution. So how do we reduce emissions? One way is to invest ethically, and look for various funds, various companies that are doing the right thing based on a set criteria benchmark. And this is here on the right, we have responsible investing spectrum, which is from RIA, which is the organization that our first guest Tom used to work with before leaving to the UK. And this is a spectrum of the different types of investing. I'm not going to go through it in a lot of depth here, but you can see on the right we have a philanthropy, which is just, I'm sure a lot of you are aware, where there's no direct financial return and you are just focused on social and environmental outcomes. And on the far left, you have ESG integration, which is more of a risk-based approach, in which your returns are still very important. And in between, you have all various ways of screening responsible investment. So yeah, like always happy to talk more about this a bit later if you wanna message me or something. But I think in the interest of time, we will go to the next slide, which I think should be a Kahoot quiz.